Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Hey Sister. Hey, sister, how you doing?
Hey, Sister All is going well today. It's Oscars night,
Hey,
so sending
sister.
positive vibes to the folks like Leslie Odom Jr. and Daniel Kaluuya and Viola Davis. You know, because we around here, we are like Issa Rae. We cheer for everybody black.
Yes, for sure, for sure. Even when they're competing against one another. So we're so excited to have our guest tonight. We're gonna introduce her more later. But hey, sister, how you doing?
Hey, sister, how are you? I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me on this show. I really appreciate it.
Well, we're excited to have you. We're going to get into your biography in a minute and all that good stuff. But if you're watching with us tonight, make sure you like, follow, share, subscribe. We want you to be a part of our Hey Sister family. So check us out across all social media channels and join the conversation in the comments. So if you're tuning in now, let us know where you're watching from. Check in, let us know where you're watching from. Drop it in the comments so we can see who's out there with us tonight on Hey Sister. Well, in typical Hey Sister fashion, we're gonna start off with hot topics. I know, sister, you shouted out the Oscars there. Ebony, are you looking forward to any Oscar categories tonight? Are you kind of like, what else?
No, I'm always excited about best movie, best actor and actress, and best soundtrack. Those are my categories that I look for every year to see who's going to get those.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. Sounds good. Well, since you mentioned music, it's been a rough couple weeks for those of us who grew up on 90s hip hop. RIP to Shock G of the Digital Underground. It was really it just seems like each week, the last 3 weeks we've done Hey Sister, we've had one of these RIPs to someone who is of our hip hop era. I don't know. What were you thinking, sister, when you heard about this one?
Well, it was a shock, no pun intended, to the system because I got it as a text message and I was like, this, it's always that feeling like this can't be real. Like this has got to be. And then when I read, of course, the details, and there aren't many details, right? It just, I was thinking back to the one of the Tupac documentaries where Shock G spoke about his friend and became really emotional about it. And I don't know, I just, it's just amazing to me that there are people who are carrying so much. I mean, all of us are, but people are carrying so much and folks don't even know it. And so that's my feelings immediately was, I hope this brother still wasn't carrying all of that because he obviously was very close to Tupac. So, yeah, I mean, I know we're going to talk about DMX's funeral here in a second, but one of the things that the minister did denote, he said, for those of us are of the hip hop generation, some of us are almost into our 70s. And if you think about the very beginning of hip hop,
Absolutely.
and then he was like, and then some are knocking on 60. So, it's putting it into that perspective because I believe Shock G was 57. So rest in peace to that brother.
Yeah, rest in peace, rest in power for sure. Ebony, what about you? Did you have anything when kind of feeling emotion run over you when you heard about this transition?
Similar to Christina, very shocked. I immediately Googled like, how old was he, right? Because I felt like we were together. I mean, he was older than me, but 57 is absolutely his age. I immediately thought about Biggie and Tupac, and I was like, wow, like, when you see in DMX, right? So when you see people starting to go to that next destination in their journey, it made me reflect on my mortality, right? And it made me reflect on the time that we have to do the best work that we can. And I really read a lot of great articles about how people don't know how much he contributed to the hip hop culture, and he was never really recognized for all the great work that he did. And I thought that was a shame. And I think it's our responsibility to make sure that the legends that we have are celebrated and remembered.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And I think, to both of you, your points that I posted something a couple of days ago about pray for your family, your friends, and your foes, because you never know what's going on with people. We don't know what's going on in people's lives, in their psyches, in their in their spiritual walks. We don't know where people are. And we should pray for them all, including ourselves, because what we do know is that just like that, this could be the last moment for any one of us, right? And so it is imperative that we keep each other lifted up, supported, and celebrated, because we don't celebrate even the mundane enough. So just like y'all here on Hey Sister tonight, and if you tuning in and watching, say, sister, I'm celebrating you. So, hey, how y'all doing? Yay! Big ups if you out there watching tonight. Shout out to you, because we don't celebrate each other enough, even the small things. So, kudos. Now we're going to talk about, I did not go to the fume. I didn't go to Prince Philip fume. I didn't go to DMX fume. I saw a little bit of the Rough Riders taking it to the street, and they really took it to the streets in a big way. But sister, you went to the fume. Tell us what your reflections are.
Okay, I didn't go to the entire fume because today it was about 5 hours, and it was also broadcast. Well, the stream that we were watching was broadcast on BET, and God bless the Black entertainment television, but a whole lot of technical difficulties. And I was like, okay, we've seen the same little placard pop up about 20 times here to talk about technical difficulties, but some of the key things that I would say takeaways, like I said, the minister who I guess did the eulogy at the end. So I missed Minister Farrakhan. Apparently he talked for about 40 minutes, but the gentleman who did the eulogy and named all of his children, and he gave DMX, his former wife Tashira, her props for bringing all the mothers and all of their children together to celebrate their father, Earl Simmons. And that part was, he did a great job. And then there was a young lady at the end who said that I didn't realize DMX had become a deacon at some point, I guess, in the church. And so she said that he was her deacon, and she was really good. She was funny. She said, she had run to the bathroom and she smelled the fried chicken, and she was like, we've been in here for a long time, so I'm gonna be quick because we got to go get us some food, basically. But some of the things that she just highlighted was like, she said they wanted to do a gospel concert with DMX. And she was like, now, Deacon, like you gonna remember not to cuss, right? And she said he was like, well, we gonna have to fast and pray to make sure I don't. So it definitely was a celebration of his life. Now at the end, it seems like somebody jumped up, wanted to run up on the stage, and they might not have been on the program. I didn't actually see that part of it, but the minister did, in the benediction, definitely prayed for that young man who felt like he didn't get his opportunity to speak. But yes, a lot of folks, and like I was saying in the pre-show, I have to say, Sister Tashira, she loved that man. And she gave him his props, and she and his fiance Desiree have a relationship that I'm like, man, they are some evolved sisters. And I had even heard that when he was in the hospital, that she was out there, Tashira was there with Desiree because they were friends. And so, hey, I feel like the X-Man went out in proper fashion. And every one thing that was the key theme throughout, people touched on how much he loved God, how much he prayed. Faith Evans even talked about how every time they were together, he prayed with them. And so how much he loved God, how much he prayed, and how much they knew that he was in a better place.
Amen to that. Well, I know prayer definitely changes things, right? So we're gonna go on to the next hot topic because, like I said, Ebony and I, we didn't take it make it to the film today. But this next topic, it's again, it's another tragedy. And with policing and encounters with policing. And we wanted to talk about the Ma'Khia Bryant being killed by a police officer in Columbus, Ohio. And this situation is a little different than some of the other cases because it very much was a fight that was happening, right? It was a physical altercation that she was involved in. She had a weapon in her hand. She had a knife. But we don't know if that knife was being used if it was a self-defense situation. We know a fight was happening. We know something was going on. We also know that she was shot 4 times by a Columbus, Ohio police officer. And as you look at the track record of the Columbus, Ohio police, it's not that stellar. But I wanted to start with you, Ebony, because we were talking about it as we were preparing in the pre-show about we've seen these type of altercations before, right? Being young Black women, we've seen things like this before, but for the grace of God, I know many people who could have lost their lives. Mm-hmm. So tell us the perspective you were sharing.
When I watched it, as you mentioned, I have flashbacks of situations that I've been privy to, that I've witnessed. At that time, social media wasn't as prevalent. There was no one videotaping and capturing those moments real time. So I think that there's a number of people in society, period, that a situation that escalates so fast, right, and that gets completely out of proportion, some portion of that probably resonates with them. But one of the things that came up for me is like what happened in all the moments that led up to that moment. What happened? Where was her guardians or her parents? Where was the community to de-escalate? I didn't see any de-escalation, right? It seemed like everything was just escalating, and in the span of 3 seconds, 4 seconds, whatever we saw in that video, it's a life is gone. And I felt very sad for the fact that there was no one there to help her navigate that situation better. There was no one there to help de-escalate it before she even got the knife in her hand. There was no context for the cop. There was nothing. And so it just made me feel like we failed her altogether. If she's 16 years old, everybody failed her. So
yeah. Sister, what do you think?
Yeah, I echo those same sentiments. Everything that I've read is that she was a product of the foster care system. And there is trauma typically associated with being a product of the foster care system. So, we don't know all of the things that she was already dealing with, or how it got to a place where this thing transpired, where it's grown women and a child, because she's still 16 years old, so she's still by legally a child, and they are even in this heightened level of altercation. I will say though, my biggest issue is that, and we've mentioned this many times, I don't know what it is about our children, right? That, and I know there's an actual term for it, and I'm not going to try to say it, but we see them as adults as opposed to seeing them as children. Now, many of us, I wasn't a very physically mature. I will say, I wasn't a very physically mature child, but I was, tall. And it's this idea that our girls, if they're physically mature, they're curvy, if they are hippie or have a chat, like they are automatically either sexualized or deemed way older than they actually are. And then our boys, if they get a little height on them or get a little bit of a few muscles, they are no longer seen as these cute little boys. All of a sudden they are seen as men way earlier than they should be. And so my challenge is, we have seen too many times where the Dylan Roofs of the world and the Kyle Rittenhouses of the world can shoot and kill people and have weapons on them, weapons far more dangerous than knives, and they can be apprehended without problem. And it there is
they are also infantilized. They're made to seem
Yes.
younger and more immature,
sure,
less
yes,
developed than Black children are of the same
same age,
age or even younger. Because
correct,
remember, Tamir Rice was all of 12 years old
correct.
when he was slain by a police officer within a matter of seconds. So as you said, Ebony, there is no de-escalation. Like, we just go from, once we on 100, like they stay on 100.
Yes. And so that is my challenge. My challenge is, from the video that I did unfortunately see and cannot unsee, is that the officer arrived on the scene and within seconds he shot off 4 shots. And I just do not, I don't know what the solution is. I mean, I have ideas, but I do know for sure that you can't make when life and death is in your hands, you gotta take more than 4 seconds to think about it.
Mm.
That's my
Hey, it's a difficult situation. I definitely don't ever want to have to be in the position to have to make that decision, but I do know that, especially like in reading the Malcolm Gladwell's book some years ago, Blink, and about how in those moments, that's why our bias and the unconscious bias training is so very important, because those blinks are made and they're driven by our inherent biases. And so I'm gonna leave that there because I don't have nothing else to say. But we're gonna move on to the star of the show. I'm gonna let you introduce her because you've known her the longest, and you want just kind of a little brief introduction, and we're gonna get into her. She's gonna tell us her own story. But I'm gonna let you do that, sister, because y'all have history.
All right. Well, I am pleased to welcome to Hey Sister my dear friend, Dr. Eboni W. Chaffee. She and I met many years ago at the Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we've had the privilege of working together over the last 4 years. She was my supervisor, or well, manager, I guess is the appropriate term for it. Recruiting me to my company, and she has since gone on to new opportunities, but I am always super proud of her. She can tell you all of the stuff in terms of the career, the years at the organization, at the company, and all of that stuff. But for me, it's really about seeing an evolution of a young woman that I met from Inglewood, California, who has just gone on to become just absolutely phenomenal. I remember being just so super proud of her when she got her doctorate degree at 26 years old, and she just keeps doing new and exciting things every day. So I'm honored to have Miss Dr. Eboni Chaffee.
Yay! Dr. Eboni Chaffee. Yeah, she's a woman in tech. So, Dr. Chaffee, why don't you tell us your story?
Christina did a great job. I'm from I'm from Inglewood, California. I got to Louisiana. My mom moved us there my senior year of high school, so I was pretty upset about that. I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. I was But it ended up being the best thing for me, actually, because it allowed me to really get focused on going to college and thinking about where I wanted to go. And of course, I selected the Southern University to go to, and I decided to get a degree in civil engineering, where I met Christina, and we navigated we navigated that environment to get to the other side. Um, and after that, I left and went to Lawrence Livermore. I took a civil engineering job, and I was outside. I was on a project, and I was outside, and I had this hard hat on, and I was managing an older affinity, you know what I mean? And I was just looking up at the sky, and I said, this is not my life. So I decided to go back to school. A friend of ours, Robert Crosby, told me about University of Florida. I was applying to UC Davis. So I ended up going to the University of Florida and getting my master's and Ph.D. in material science and engineering. And that's really where I reintroduced myself to the value of educating self, right? The value and the discipline of educating self. And that journey allowed me to successfully navigate to my PhD. And then I went to Intel, and I was there for 16 years. And, a whole nother set of tools in development areas through my professional career. And of course, having the opportunity to bring on Christina to be a part of my organization and really drive some magnificent thought leadership, excellent marketing, has been a fabulous exclamation point on that part of my journey. And I'm super excited to see what she does next. And I know she's so supportive of my next steps in my journey as well. So that's my quick blurb there.
That's great. Hey, that's a great blurb telling us about that little background, that tidbit to your story. And you talked a lot about, kind of that continuing growth part. So I know one of the things we wanted to get into tonight is about that professional development and investing in yourself and investing early. So, going that doctorate route is a whole nother thing, right? And you did that really early on in your career. What other things have you done really to invest in yourself and invest in your continued evolution as a professional?
Yeah, so funny. I remember this conversation. Me and my father, we were talking, and I was getting ready to graduate, and I was like, I just want to get a job and just work really hard, and I want my work to be able to showcase my skills. And he laughed at me, right? He was like, Ebony, it's not like that. When you get into corporate America, there's all kind of other things that you have to do and other kind of politics that you have to navigate. And I was like, yeah, I don't care about that. I don't want to deal with that. And so of course that's my naivety, right? Like I'm speaking from a place where it's like all those things don't matter. But as you get into corporate America, you really quickly see that it's not just about hard work, and it's not just about showing up. It's really about other tools that you need to add into your tool set, like influence and growing your network and incremental soft skills that maybe were not ever taught to you at a young age, on how to communicate and translate your thoughts to different communities and situations, and being able to read the room, and working with groups of people that are so different from you, right? How do you effectively listen? How do you effectively communicate? How do you learn something? How do you learn a new market, a new tool, in order to make your job better? In tool, when I mean like technology, right? To make your job and make the work that you do more profound. And so entering into I really had to kind of quickly gather myself and understand all those different elements. And but I think it's that tenacity, though, on the back end, honestly. So I think it's that I did go to an HBCU, and I had to navigate that environment, and then I did go get my dissertation. So there was a tenacity and a focus and a discipline there that allowed me to then get into this professional environment and understand better, how to navigate it. And I will say, though, that there's some tools that it took me longer to develop than others, like the networking part, right? Like me, I'm a person, I know people because I know you and I like you, and we get along and we have a great time. But I was never a big networking person. I didn't even know how to do it effectively, right? How do you go up to someone and you're like, oh, I want to be a part of your network. Like, I want you to be in my, like, I didn't even know how to do it. And then I didn't know how to do it and feel authentic about it, right? I didn't know how to be true to what I thought the version of myself was at that time. And then, we all suffer from, what's the syndrome?
Imposter syndrome.
Thank you. Thank you. We all have that playing in the background. So, it took me a really long time. Like, I had mentors that were friends of mine for 8 years. And I'm calling them mentors now, but at the time they were like my friends. But they were way elevated, VP, like executive VPs of the company. And I never tapped into them in that kind of way. And then one day when I was really like, oh, I wonder what's going on that side of the company. And I was just driving down the street and someone who actually took pictures at my wedding, I was like, I've never had this conversation with them, and why? And it's just something that never really clicked to me. But once it did, I realized, I probably missed some steps there. And, I tried to start, really cultivate, and then even talking to them about it, like, like what happened and why didn't it? And they probably were asking me, like, how's everything going? They were actually, how's everything going? What's going on with you? And I'm like, oh, it's fine. I don't like this, but it's fine. But I never really reached into them for help and coaching in that professional way. And so once I realized that I definitely started leveraging them more. And then over time, I just started really finding the authentic place and growing my professional tools and network by, I would see people who would get up and speak. And I was like, oh my God, I want to be able to speak like that. Like they are controlling the entire room. Like, how do they do that? I'm going to ask them, right? Because that's authentic to me. That's something that I really want to understand. Who coached you? Did you coach yourself? Can you coach me? I can connect to things like that. And I really started growing my network just off identifying things and values that I saw in people that resonated with me. That is an area that I want to continuously improve. And then I'm always seeking to learn. And Christina knows this. I'm not gonna go to Barnes and Noble and like buy a book. I'm not gonna do that. But I will Google the hell out of stuff. Like, I will read and I will research, and I will try my best to understand. So I'm always seeking to understand and trying to be abreast on the newest technology, what's going on socially, and as well as, how do we bridge what's happening in this corporate America to what our children are experiencing in education. So hope I answered your question there, Dimitri.
Yeah, you definitely you dropped a lot of things in there. I couldn't type them all in there, but since I'm gonna toss it to you to ask another question.
So I want to just delve into that a bit, right? So, one of the things that I said that I think is important for us to talk about is getting, that seeking out that professional development as early as possible in your career. But you are a woman in tech. You're a Black woman in tech. You have previously served as chief of staff. You're as a chief of staff again, in a very different capacity. So, what are some of the challenges that you've experienced as a Black woman in tech, and how have you, overcome those things? Maybe one or two, because I'm sure there are a few.
Thanks for that lead-in, Christina.
Yeah.
It's a continuous journey. First, I used to enter rooms, and not only am I the only woman, but I'm the only Black woman. And the assumption is that I work for someone else, and
you were probably one of the youngest. Just gonna throw that out there.
I'm gonna put that age in there. Let's not do that. Age, gender, race, right? And walking into that room with a room full of men, primarily white, and then there might be sprinkles of Asian. It's assumptions that are made, and I'm not one that leads with letters. Like, oh, I don't do that, and I historically have not done that. But one of the challenges I found with developing my career is, like, people really just felt like I was working for someone else in the room, right? And so I had to establish myself as the person who was the expert, who had the letters, who owned the program, who owned the initiative, drove the team. And it was very different for me because it's my personality is not like that, like to be like so forward with information like that. Maybe in other ways, but not with not with my career. So I had to learn to do that. And it was because I was facing challenges with being heard and respected. And once we got past that and I had started building a brand for myself at the company, it really became about my age, and it became about my my truth and transparency, right? My clarity of thought, right? I'm very, it intimidated some people, right? It intimidated women and men, honestly. And you know, like I was accelerating through my career too fast for some, right? When they look at that, the way their career matured, you know, it took them 20x years to get to where I was. And so they felt like, oh, I had time. And, you know, which I was totally against, because I feel like if you're doing the work and you're showing up in that way, then what happened to us? Why aren't we getting a fair and equal playing field to navigate our careers? So, you know, things like that start becoming a challenge when you're prepared and you're ready and you're executing to where the trajectory should take you, but the biases in the room won't let you in. And so as I, you know, sometimes you can be a great coach, you can mentor other people and you can coach other people, but when you're in the situation, you have to be willing to listen to the same coaching that you would give. And people move on for a few reasons, right? And if you're in an environment where that ecosystem does not want to let you in, they want to create a ceiling that really shouldn't even be there, then you have to find a new room that has a higher ceiling or no ceiling at all, right? So,
Yeah.
did I answer the question, Christina?
No, I think that was really. I like the way you said that there at the end. You know, find another room where there's a higher ceiling or no ceiling at all. And I want to drill down on this a little bit further, because that's not easy.
No, ma'am, it's not.
Okay. So let's talk about that part. Let's talk about the hard part. Let's say the hard part out loud. It's not easy, because sometimes, whether it's those others, their intrinsic biases or unconscious biases, they do become a weight that you carry.
Amen. Yes.
And you find yourself like, okay, why do I got this 10-pound anchor? Like, you a helium balloon with an anchor on you, and you can't even take lift off, right? So how do you release, or how do you even get the awareness or knowledge that, oh, somebody has put an anchor on me, so that then you can navigate?
Yeah, this is myself. Please know I'm speaking to myself as I answer. You know, when you are allowing that weight to be put on you, you're just used to put the weight. You know, we carry. That's what we do. Like, we're carriers. We're gonna carry loads and weight. But this is what helped me. I can only speak to this is that growth mindset, right? That growth mindset. Sometimes when we look at our future, we have set up a plan and a strategy for what our future is supposed to look like. And we're so intentional about bringing that future into reality in the ecosystem that we understand, till we allow weight to be put on us, because we're not trusting and putting faith in the fact that we're going to get there. It just may not be through this particular path. And so as soon as you relinquish that it has to look like a particular thing, or you stop trying to fight against what you know is you know that this environment is not for you. You know it's not going to be the way there's accepting that and relinquishing that and knowing that your future is promised for you, it immediately removes the load. It immediately takes your mind and your heart and your spirit into a different, more proactive space that allows you to focus your energy in ways that are going to move you forward leaps and bounds beyond what you were so fixated on in that previous place.
Yeah. You all are tuning in live to Hey Sister right now. We are glad to have you. We are joined by Dr. Eboni Chaffee, and we want you to be a part of the conversation. So join the conversation in the comments by asking your questions, giving shout outs. I've been typing some things in there because I think that's such a key point that you said. Sometimes we get so, because I do coaching, so it kind of lines what lines of stuff I tell people all the time, as well as I coach my clients. We get so wedded to a certain way, a certain path, or a certain process, and that it don't make it right. It's just one way. We just never even had an idea that, there are other rooms I can go into. There's a whole nother path I can take. Like, it doesn't have to be here or this way. So that is so very powerful. And that's whether you're in corporate America, that's whether you at home raising children, that's whether you an entrepreneur doing your own business. There is not just the way. There's all kind of ways to get to that same end. But are you going to release enough to allow yourself to have the possibility, explore those possibilities? So, okay, I just rambled on a little bit. I'm sorry. All right. Yeah. I know one of the other things you wanted to talk about tonight, and I'm going to toss it to my sister here. It's talking about, well, how do we prepare the next generation of leaders, the next generation of Black women? We both participated in an event this afternoon, earlier today, with some college-aged women at my alma mater, and they're just so cute and precious. I just could hardly contain myself. I was having all kinds of little memories and flashbacks. But how do we prepare that next generation to be the next, or the Dr. Chaffee 2.0?
Oh, yeah, let's go. Christina, she bounced it over to you.
No, I think she was throwing it to me to ask the question, but she asked the question anyway. So it's to you.
I missed that. Oh, wow, man. Like, as early as possible, right? Like you look at kids. I'm a believer of this, and somebody probably has data somewhere that says something different. But when I think about what I knew at 10, like my daughter knew at 7, the amount of information that they have access to is so vast. They're learning on an accelerated rate. So one, as parents, we have to be very mindful that the amount of information that they're ready to consume and that is available to them, we need to be honing that as much as possible, because there's so much information out there. But then two, I think it's so important that, and this is where I work all the time from. There's corporate America and there's next generation technology, and there's this convergence in the middle so far as our education is concerned. And what I'm super passionate about is ensuring that the curriculum that's being taught in our education system is setting our children up to have the next generation jobs, right? The jobs that exist today are not the jobs of yesterday. And we need to be ensuring that our kids understand how to code. They need to do AI. They need to be in STEM communities and STEM education systems, and not just STEM for the science, but they really get what the corporations are going, where the technology is moving, and they're evolving their curriculum on a regular basis to make sure that our children are staying 5, 10 steps ahead, so that they have skills when they graduate that are really fungible with the needs of corporate America. I see that as a huge gap. But I also think that we have to educate parents too. I think COVID-19 opened up a Pandora's box of insight to educators, learners, institutions on the gap in parent, guardian, educator, learner, and how we need to bring the parents and guardians into the fold and make sure that they are equipped with the right tools and education infrastructure to help the kids, right? So I think we have to start early. I think we need to make sure we have the right tools and infrastructure there. And I think we need to make sure we have the right curriculum.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to just, punctuate that about the right curriculum, because as you said, the jobs of today are not the jobs of yesterday, and the ones tomorrow won't be the ones of today. And I always talk about, I worked at ESPN before going to Intel, and when I worked there, I remember being, I always tell students when I'm having conversations, think about the things that you love, you like, the things that you're passionate about. Figure out how you can work in those areas, because when you're searching for a particular job title, you don't even know the job titles. Like, the job titles haven't even come to fruition. I mean, when I joined your team, my job title is product marketing engineer. I don't even think the people who are product marketing engineers know what that really means, So it's always important to really understand, and even understand the things that you are really passionate about, what you really love, and then find the job titles. But I really do also think, even if you're a creative, so like my sister's daughter is a very creative person. Even if you're a creative, there are elements of STEM education that should be incorporated into that creativity. We've seen a lot of musicians and artists who have incorporated a lot of science into the work that they're doing. So I agree. We need to start having these conversations early on. And especially, I feel like in the Black community, we have got to stop telling our kids like things like, we don't know how to do math. Because that's a pet peeve of mine. Because I'm like, you absolutely know how to do math. First of all, Egypt is in Africa, and the pyramids that's all mathematical. So amongst all other systems, right, that are mathematical. So we absolutely know how to do math. We absolutely know science. I mean, if you look across all scientific inventions and discovery, we are there. We are there. So we should stop limiting ourselves to being, in these certain categories of jobs or titles, and understand that we can utilize the breadth and depth of who we are across many different industries, companies, disciplines, etc. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there. So,
no, that's very powerful. And I know our father talks about that all the time. I mean, that whole thing where we don't do math. Well, like you said, if you break down football to a young boy at 8, 9, and 10, and he knows how to run a certain route, you can say, okay, that's a 45-degree angle, or that's a 90-degree angle, and then you cutting over here. I mean, that's a geometry lesson. If you break that field down into those yards, and you know how many yards you have to make to get to the other end, that's a math lesson. So we live math every day. And I think that's one of the things that, it's an aha revelation that I had also as I got older, was that a lot of the stuff we do, we say, oh, we never gonna use that again. Lies. We use it every day. We just don't know that we're using it every day. And how do we and so that's the question I want to toss to you, Eboni, is how do we bring it to life? And not just for children, but for those of us who are the adults, and for all of us, and as a community, how do we bring STEM to life?
Yeah, I was listening to Christina, and then when you chimed in, it reiterated a comment that I was going to make. Me and my husband was having a conversation, and we were talking to our daughter, and she's on problem solving, right? So she's doing math through problem solving, get to read. And by the way, I hated that. I would get lost in the for the paragraph. I'd be like, what am I solving for? But anyway, that's so I was sensitive to her journey. But one of the things that we both agree on is like when you know something deeply, you know it in a way that makes sense to you, right? And when someone else is trying to explain it to you in a different way, it can almost intimidate you and make you feel like, oh, I don't know this because I don't know it this kind of way. Perfect example, my daughter comes home, she has this math work. It's addition, blah blah blah. It's something. But the way her teacher is telling her to do this math problem, like I wouldn't do it that way. Like that's not how we learned, and I'm gonna assume we all learned the same way. That's not like it was different. I was like, why is she teaching you guys like this? But I just adjusted what I understood, and I was like, oh, fine, yeah, do it her way. This is how to do it. But I think when I go back to learn, like parents and guardians, it's very intimidating when you're forcing the way a person understands something into this different box of understanding. So I really like what you said, Demetria, about taking what you know and really feeling good about what you do know. Like, football, help your son understand, and your son loves football. Break this field down into yards. Show them how they make a 90-degree angle. Show them how they make a 45. That's spectacular to me. And that's things that parents do all the time when they're trying to develop those other skills in their children. And I think one of the things is being able to help parents connect those everyday things that they do to using when you pay bills, when you're balancing your checkbook, when you are going shopping and you're paying taxes on every single thing, right? You get taxed on the dollar 10 times before you actually even get a chance to utilize. You can't even utilize a whole dollar. If you looked at how many times that $1 gets taxed, it's a joke, rolling joke with me and my husband. Like, I think we got down to like you're really getting like 10, 15 cents on a dollar by the time it gets taxed from everybody it gets taxed from. So it's really important for us to connect the things that we do in our everyday life to those lessons that our kids are learning so that we feel empowered and we feel connected, right? And that goes to technology too. How many parents have complained about using PCs and computers trying to help their kids through COVID-19, right? Not every parent is sitting on a computer every day. So it's a very different environment for them. And that's even if they have connectivity. So I don't want to go off on a tangent, but
that's a whole nother tangent, huh? Whew. Yeah.
Well, I did want to ask another question. I wanted to talk about you touched on the networking piece. I want to talk about networking, but I want to talk about it a little bit differently. I want to talk about your village because, again, you recruited me to Intel. And one of the things that I have to say, although I did not always agree with your perspective, the thing that I knew for sure is that I did have an advocate in the rooms that I was not sitting in. I knew for sure that if, even when I didn't believe in my own abilities, you were there to say, I'm telling you, like, this is the line. I'm telling you, Chrissy, you know more than these people know. So how important, the village has been very important to me, right? Mm-hmm. How important has the village been for you?
Profound. It's been profound. Like I carry, and Christina, you and I have had this conversation, right? It's people. I'm not just women, but there's people that I've met through my journey that when I have an accolade, when people reflect and they do my bio and they share my story, that's I'm bringing everyone along with me, right? Every person who has shared a piece of themselves and nurtured me and mentored me and coached me, I'm bringing them all along on this journey, which is why I feel it's my personal responsibility to create that space that you spoke about, that not only provide you, but for anyone that is in my ecosystem, it's my responsibility to be that person and fight for them in that room and be their voice. Because I know I want to pay it forward because I know, how I've gotten to where I am today. And I think it's important when we talk about diversity and inclusion. I hold every leader accountable for, like, if you look around your corporate boardroom and you do not see diverse and inclusive faces, then you need to start with yourself and you need to lead by example and you need to set the tone and temperament for what culture you want to drive in the organization, because if you do, people will follow. And so I'm challenged with people who say they're for diversity and inclusion, but they do not have a diverse staff, right? So I I'm a I'm a person that I say what I mean, I do what I say, and I stand by the people that I decide to have a part of anything that I do, because I believe in each and every one of you. So
Yeah.
that's my view
We
on
got a
the
couple comments I want to share. One from Sunny LaBeouf says, "Great discussion, network." I think y'all know Sunny LaBeouf.
Yes, we
We
know.
had her here on Hey Sister before. Great discussion, networking, alternative rooms, finding a space to share your unique gifts and talents in an impactful and meaningful way is so important. Jackie Alexander said, "Your village is essential and holds so much value." Most definitely. I know the village has lifted me up and lifts me up all the time. So, one last topic to get into before we kind of get ready to start winding down to a close: HBCUs and STEM. So, I know you a big, you said the Southern University, they had to put that D in there.
Yeah, I don't know when it happened, but Christina got me saying it, so I got into it.
Well,
Saying it right.
the truth is, when you try to type it in, because I get that too. When you try to type it in, the grammar correct will put that D in front of it for you. So, but tell us about HBCUs and STEM, and I know this for sure, and I can say this unequivocally, and I say it all the time. If you know a black doctor, if you know 10 black doctors, probably a good 5 of them went to Xavier. So, and Southern has a great tradition in engineering, computer science,
Nursing.
yeah. So nursing, yeah. So in those STEM fields. So talk to us about HBCUs and STEM and why we got to keep this legacy strong.
And it is so. I'm getting feedback, you guys. I don't know if you're getting it on your end, but it's so critical that we continue to sponsor and invest in HBCUs for STEM. When I look at the legacy that I even know of, right? Christina's HBCU network is 2x mine still, but I just see so much talent and success and excellence when I look across the board. I mean, and that's because we had a place where we can go and succeed. It was up to us, right? It was the one time probably where, like, if you didn't do what you were supposed to, it wasn't because the system was against you. No, we're not talking about registration in that sense either. But but there was, like, everyone there was just trying to make themselves better. And so specifically when I look at STEM, this is a space, I look at Southern, and I think the STEM infrastructure is not what it used to be. It used to be much stronger. It used to have much more integrated focus and leaders, and I'm really concerned that if we don't do something significant in the next year or so, like, we're not even gonna have a STEM infrastructure at all. I want us to stay accredited, but this is where I think corporate America can really help. And I think that going in and looking at schools like Southern that have science and technology there, they just need some help. They need some guidance on their curriculum, getting together with the other HBCUs in that immediately, what they call it, Christina, those North
And
Carolina.
consortium.
Yeah. Getting three good schools together that really can come together and create a stronger STEM. Because sometimes I feel like, you can't do it all by yourself, right? Maybe if you come together, you're stronger, better together. And then making sure you influence the curriculum so that these schools are helping each other through that process. I think we'll have a better shot at ensuring that not only are our kids coming out with jobs, with skills that meet the corporate needs, but also that they have cross-state help and assistance and programs that are going to help them be successful too. Because just like COVID, where you can't expect workers to work in the state that the job is in all the time. I think school is going to start looking different, right? COVID is going to allow kids to take individual courses at other universities easier than it has been in the past, and I think that is going to help our students probably catch back up. But I do think we need funding and we need curriculum guidance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that regional approach, I would love to definitely see more of, and even more public-private institution kind of collaboration. Because regionally, we have it. We just don't always know how to tap into it. So.
Exactly. I'm a big fan of that, Dimitri. I think that's probably right now, to me, that's the hammer that we need, actually. Like we're done chiseling. We need a hammer. And that regional strategy is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think it so just hearing you say that, it reminded me of this morning when we were talking to the young ladies, and the Dr. Lundy, who gave the presentation and used the Audre Lorde quote, "You are who you're looking for." And I think that's the thing. We have everything that we need within us, within our network, within the regional schools. I mean, again, you look at Louisiana and you have Xavier, you have Dillard, you have Southern, the Southern system, you have Grambling. And so there's opportunities right in that state where we have opportunities to capitalize from a STEM perspective. And so I would like to see, to your point, more collaboration there. And then, to Dr. Chaffee's point about the corporate piece, at the end of the day, academia is a business, but it can't be run 100% like a business. And companies have elements of academia, but they're not universities. We really have to utilize the strengths that each possess and work together, so that, like you said, students are equipped for the next generation of jobs, because we don't even know what's coming next.
That's right.
And so we need to have that collaboration. And there are other universities other than a few.
Yeah. One thing that I will just, there's the curriculum, but we have to prepare I going back to those tools, right, in development. Like, are you prepared to interview? Can you write your resume? Like, can you, like, I feel like we have to do that part too, which is different. It's a different set of skills. It's those soft skills and capabilities to take all the goodness that you're working. You made straight A's. Can you translate that into a resume that's going to get you hired somewhere? And we need that part too. I just want to plug that really quickly.
Yeah, I think, listen, I think that's a challenge for many of us. Again, we talked about this, especially during last month during Women's History Month. We grew up on this idea of meritocracy. We grew up on this idea of, if you work really hard, you're going to be promoted, advanced, celebrated, etc. And that's not what it is. So you're right. We do, Demetria and I often say, time, talent, treasure. We have to give back to our institutions in all three, preferably, but at least one. And if that means you don't have the treasure, but you have the time and the talent, then find a young person that you can mentor to help. Because a resume is the first step, right? That's the baseline. You got to use that just to get your foot in the door. But then there's all, like you said, all those soft skills after you get your first job. How do you continue to keep it? Who do you talk to? Who are that's the time for mentoring. When we're trying to get promoted and we've already been down that path, now I need a sponsor. But when you're just starting out, that's really the time for mentoring. And I think that when it comes, as all three of us are HBCU graduates, ensuring that we are utilizing our time, talent, and treasures back at our universities.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we have one comment here. It says, proud of you, Dr. Eboni Chaffee. And that is from your husband. And I wanted to throw that up there because today is your wedding anniversary. So, yay! Happy anniversary.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, had to wish you all a happy anniversary and many more to come. And so, what do you want to say to the audience in closing? Any key takeaways? I'm going to toss it to you first, Dr. Chaffee, because we thank you for being with us tonight.
I just wanted to, really applaud you and Christina for establishing this platform. I've been watching in the background for a while. I'm really proud of the push, and I think it's such a great platform to have people share and to speak about some things that need to be said, right? And people don't have to agree, but at least there's space enough to have the conversation. So I wanted to use the time to say how proud of both of you I am, and how encouraging and inspiring you both are. So thank you for having me on your show.
No, thank you for being here with us. Sister, what do you want to say in closing tonight?
So I just want to say again, thank you, Dr. Chaffee, for being here. Thank you for being a great friend. Thank you for being, again, a voice for me and so many others in those rooms where we were not present. As one of my colleagues now has said, one of your strengths is that you run to a problem, not away from it. And that is not something that I necessarily enjoy doing, running towards a problem. I like to avoid quite often. But I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to all the additional great things that you are doing and you will be doing. And just to say, I know that this is not always something that's very comfortable for you, but I've seen your growth, and that is awesome. And you actually were a part of our very first episode of Hey Sister as well.
That's very true. That's exactly true.
Very, very true. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight. I'm going to do one more. It's not a shameless plug. It is what it is. Spring into Leadership Women's Conference.
Yes.
This week. Yay! The 5th annual Spring into Leadership Women's Conference is this week. Go to springintoleadership.com to register, to get signed up. Last chance, last few days to get signed up. We want you to be there, and it's we talked about the village, the tribe, sharpening your skills, and as iron sharpen iron, so does a man sharpen another, right? And so that's what we will be doing this week. I'm super excited about it. We start on Thursday, April 29th in the afternoon, and we go on Friday and Saturday, wrapping it up, and we just have a stellar agenda planned for you. We also have a contest right now for, if you want to enter to win, send us an email and tell us what power means to you and why you want to attend Spring into Leadership. And we'll be drawing those winners on tomorrow. So if you haven't registered or you know someone who should be there, get them there and jump in, get on the contest, send us an email, and we will get you in, read your answers, and we'll be selecting our winners by Tuesday. And that is all we have tonight. So we're going to sign off. Y'all wave to the camera. Y'all stay on the line and wave to the camera and say good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.